Hello everyone, thank you for listening to my story. Today I will continue telling part 3. Hello everyone, thank you for listening to my story. Today, it was in this moment of despair when Arjuna's thoughts were consumed with confusion and inner turmoil that Krishna, his charioteer and trusted guide, spoke to him. Krishna, with his calm and divine presence, had been watching Arjuna's emotional struggle. He knew that this was the critical moment for Arjuna, a moment where the future of the battle and perhaps even the kingdom depended on his resolve. Krishna saw that Arjuna needed more than just physical strength. He needed guidance, wisdom, and clarity. Arjuna turned to Krishna, his voice trembling with doubt and fear. "Krishna, how can I fight this war? How can I strike down my own kin? The thought of killing them fills my heart with sorrow. How can this be righteous? If I kill my own family, I will only bring ruin upon myself and those who remain. I cannot bear to face such violence." Krishna looked at Arjuna, his eyes filled with both compassion and authority. He understood Arjuna's confusion, for it was a battle not only of armies but of the mind and soul. Krishna knew that the moment had come to speak the sacred truths that would guide Arjuna through this moral crisis. "Arjuna," Krishna began, his voice gentle yet firm, "you must not let your heart be ruled by grief and confusion. The path of Dharma, righteous duty, must come first. The nature of this battle, like the nature of life itself, is beyond the realm of human understanding. You are a warrior, and your duty is to fight, to uphold what is right, to protect what is just. You are not fighting because you wish to harm your family, but because this battle is part of a greater cosmic order." Krishna continued, explaining the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most profound spiritual texts in the world. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches Arjuna not only about the nature of duty but also about the nature of the soul, the meaning of life, and the purpose of the battle that had been thrust upon them. He explained that the soul is eternal and indestructible. The bodies we inhabit are temporary, subject to birth and death, but the soul itself cannot be killed. "Arjuna, you are concerned about the destruction of the physical body, but the soul is beyond destruction. Your teachers, your family, your friends, all the souls are eternal. They are only passing through this world in these forms. To kill the body is not to kill the soul." Arjuna listened intently as Krishna spoke of duty and destiny, of the larger plan that was unfolding. Krishna spoke of action without attachment, of performing one's duty without being consumed by the fruits of that action. He told Arjuna that his role as a warrior was not to be questioned, for it was his Dharma. "Do not hesitate, Arjuna. Fight for what is right, not for the outcome, but for the fulfillment of your duty. What is yours to do, you must do, regardless of the consequences. If you fight without attachment to the result, you will find peace." Arjuna's inner turmoil began to ease, but he still struggled with the concept of fighting against his loved ones. Krishna, sensing his hesitation, spoke of the transitory nature of life and the importance of seeing beyond the material world. "Your attachment to those you love is natural, Arjuna, but you must see beyond it. In this world, attachments bind you, limit you, and cloud your understanding. You must transcend this attachment, for the ultimate reality is far greater than the fleeting relationships of this world." Krishna went on to speak about the importance of acting according to one's Dharma and how every person's role in the world is part of the greater cosmic design. "You are not fighting this battle for yourself, Arjuna. You are fighting for the kingdom of righteousness, for the preservation of justice. This war is not about personal gain, but about restoring balance to the world. This is the divine will, and you, Arjuna, are an instrument of that will." Arjuna listened with growing understanding, his heart lightening as he took in Krishna's words. In this moment, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita transformed his perspective. No longer was this a battle between families or a personal struggle of right versus wrong. It was a battle of cosmic importance, a war to uphold the principles of justice, righteousness, and Dharma. As Krishna finished his teachings, Arjuna's heart was no longer weighed down by doubt. He had come to understand that his role in the war was part of a greater cosmic order, one that he could not deny. His duty was clear, and the path before him was now illuminated by the wisdom Krishna had imparted. Krishna, seeing the shift in Arjuna's spirit, spoke again, "Arjuna, now you are ready. The battle is not just a fight with weapons, but with your inner self. You have understood your duty, and you must carry it out with courage, detachment, and devotion. Fight not for the outcome, but for the sake of Dharma. Victory or defeat matters not to the wise, for it is the righteousness of your actions that will bring peace." With Krishna's divine guidance, Arjuna's heart was now at peace. His doubts had been swept away, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that the war was not just a conflict between the Pandavas and Kauravas, but was a spiritual battle for the soul of the world. His role as a warrior was part of the divine plan, and he was ready to fulfill it. Arjuna, now fully resolved, turned to Krishna and said, "I will fight, Krishna. I will fight for righteousness. I will fulfill my duty as a warrior. I will not hesitate." Krishna smiled, his eyes filled with approval. The battle of Kurukshetra, the battle of good versus evil, was about to begin in earnest, and Arjuna was now ready to face it with clarity and strength. With Krishna by his side, Arjuna felt invincible. He had embraced his destiny and understood his role in the greater cosmic order. Now, nothing could stop him from fulfilling his purpose. As Arjuna mounted his chariot, the war cries of the Pandavas and Kauravas echoed across the battlefield. The stage was set for the ultimate confrontation, a battle that would decide the fate of an entire kingdom and the future of Dharma itself. Krishna's teachings had not only prepared Arjuna for battle, but had also enlightened him on the deeper purpose of life and duty. The Bhagavad Gita was more than just a manual for war, it was a guide to living a righteous life, to overcoming the challenges of the world with wisdom, courage, and selflessness. Arjuna was now ready to face his destiny with unwavering resolve. The sun had barely risen, casting a soft golden light across the vast Kurukshetra battlefield. The air was thick with the tension of the coming battle, a tension that weighed heavily on Arjuna's heart. The entire battlefield was filled with the sounds of preparation, warriors assembling, chariots being readied, and the war drums of both the Pandavas and the Kauravas echoing through the air. Yet, in the midst of this, Arjuna found himself standing still, his heart heavy with doubt. Arjuna was not a man who feared battle. He had spent years training under the greatest masters, and his skills with the bow and arrow were unmatched. But now, as he stood at the edge of the battlefield, looking out over the thousands of warriors who would soon clash in a violent contest for the throne of Hastinapura, something changed within him. He could see the faces of his friends, his teachers, his family, people he loved on both sides of the conflict. This was no longer a battle for glory or honor. It was a battle that would tear apart the very fabric of his life. As Arjuna surveyed the scene, he realized the full magnitude of what was about to happen. He saw his own cousins, the Kauravas, lined up in opposition to him. He saw Duryodhana, the one who had caused so much suffering for his family, his great enemy, ready to fight to the death. But even so, Arjuna's heart was torn. How could he raise his bow against his own family members? How could he strike down men he had once played and learned with? It was in this moment of despair, when Arjuna's thoughts were consumed with confusion and inner turmoil, that Krishna, his charioteer and trusted guide, spoke to him. Krishna, with his calm and divine presence, had been watching Arjuna's emotional struggle. He knew that this was the critical moment for Arjuna, a moment where the future of the battle, and perhaps even the kingdom, depended on his resolve. Krishna saw that Arjuna needed more than just physical strength. He needed guidance, wisdom, and clarity. Arjuna turned to Krishna, his voice trembling with doubt and fear. "Krishna, how can I fight this war? How can I strike down my own kin? The thought of killing them fills my heart with sorrow. How can this be righteous? If I kill my own family, I will only bring ruin upon myself and those who remain. I cannot bear to face such violence." Krishna looked at Arjuna, his eyes filled with both compassion and authority. He understood Arjuna's confusion, for it was a battle not only of armies but of the mind and soul. Krishna knew that the moment had come to speak the sacred truths that would guide Arjuna through this moral crisis. "Arjuna," Krishna began, his voice gentle yet firm, "you must not let your heart be ruled by grief and confusion. The path of Dharma, righteous duty, must come first. The nature of this battle, like the nature of life itself, is beyond the realm of human understanding. You are a warrior, and your duty is to fight, to uphold what is right, to protect what is just. You are not fighting because you wish to harm your family, but because this battle is part of a greater cosmic order." Krishna continued, explaining the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most profound spiritual texts in the world. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches Arjuna not only about the nature of duty, but also about the nature of the soul, the meaning of life, and the purpose of the battle that had been thrust upon them. He explained that the soul is eternal and indestructible. The bodies we inhabit are temporary, subject to birth and death, but the soul itself cannot be killed. Arjuna, you are concerned about the destruction of the physical body, but the soul is beyond destruction. Your teachers, your family, your friends, all the souls are eternal. They are only passing through this world in these forms. To kill the body is not to kill the soul. Arjuna listened intently as Krishna spoke of duty and destiny, of the larger plan that was unfolding. Krishna spoke of action without attachment, of performing one's duty without being consumed by the fruits of that action. He told Arjuna that his role as a warrior was not to be questioned, for it was his Dharma. Do not hesitate, Arjuna. Fight for what is right, not for the outcome, but for the fulfillment of your duty. What is yours to do, you must do regardless of the consequences. If you fight without attachment to the result, you will find peace. Arjuna's inner turmoil began to ease, but he still struggled with the concept of fighting against his loved ones. Krishna, sensing his hesitation, spoke of the transitory nature of life and the importance of seeing beyond the material world. Your attachment to those you love is natural, Arjuna, but you must see beyond it. In this world, attachments bind you, limit you, and cloud your understanding. You must transcend this attachment, for the ultimate reality is far greater than the fleeting relationships of this world. Krishna went on to speak about the importance of acting according to one's Dharma, and how every person's role in the world is part of the greater cosmic design. You are not fighting this battle for yourself, Arjuna. You are fighting for the kingdom of righteousness, for the preservation of justice. This war is not about personal gain, but about restoring balance to the world. This is the divine will, and you, Arjuna, are an instrument of that will. Arjuna listened with growing understanding, his heart lightening as he took in Krishna's words. In this moment, the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita transformed his perspective. No longer was this a battle between families or a personal struggle of right versus wrong. It was a battle of cosmic importance, a war to uphold the principles of justice, righteousness, and Dharma. As Krishna finished his teachings, Arjuna's heart was no longer weighed down by doubt. He had come to understand that his role in the war was part of a greater cosmic order, one that he could not deny. His duty was clear, and the path before him was now illuminated by the wisdom Krishna had imparted. Krishna, seeing the shift in Arjuna's spirit, spoke again, "Arjuna, now you are ready. The battle is not just a fight with weapons, but with your inner self. You have understood your duty, and you must carry it out with courage, detachment, and devotion. Fight not for the outcome, but for the sake of Dharma. Victory or defeat matters not to the wise, for it is the righteousness of your actions that will bring peace." With Krishna's divine guidance, Arjuna's heart was now at peace. His doubts had been swept away, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that the war was not just a conflict between the Pandavas and Kauravas, but was a spiritual battle for the soul of the world. His role as a warrior was part of the divine plan, and he was ready to fulfill it. Arjuna, now fully resolved, turned to Krishna and said, "I will fight, Krishna. I will fight for righteousness. I will fulfill my duty as a warrior. I will not hesitate." Krishna smiled, his eyes filled with approval. The battle of Kurukshetra, the battle of good versus evil, was about to begin in earnest, and Arjuna was now ready to face it with clarity and strength. With Krishna by his side, Arjuna felt invincible. He had embraced his destiny and understood his role in the greater cosmic order. Now, nothing could stop him from fulfilling his purpose. As Arjuna mounted his chariot, the war cries of the Pandavas and Kauravas echoed across the battlefield. The stage was set for the ultimate confrontation, a battle that would decide the fate of an entire kingdom and the future of Dharma itself. Krishna's teachings had not only prepared Arjuna for battle, but had also enlightened him on the deeper purpose of life and duty. The Bhagavad Gita was more than just a manual for war, it was a guide to living a righteous life, to overcoming the challenges of the world with wisdom, courage, and selflessness. Arjuna was now ready to face his destiny with unwavering resolve. The battlefield of Kurukshetra, once alive with the sounds of war drums and the clash of weapons, had now fallen into an eerie silence. The final battle had come to an end, and the fate of the Kuru dynasty had been decided. After 18 days of brutal fighting, the Pandavas emerged victorious, but their victory was far from sweet. It was a hollow triumph, weighed down by the immense loss of life and the devastating consequences of the war. The warriors on both sides had fought with unparalleled courage and determination. The battlefield was littered with the bodies of fallen heroes, men who had fought not for personal gain but for duty, loyalty, and honor. Heroes like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and many others had given their all, and now their blood stained the earth, a stark reminder of the price of war. As the last remnants of the Kaurava army fled or lay dead on the battlefield, the Pandavas stood victorious, but they could not shake the weight of what they had lost. Their hearts were heavy with grief, for in winning the kingdom, they had lost so much. Thousands of lives had been sacrificed, both on their side and on that of the Kauravas. The grief of losing loved ones, mentors, and warriors who had once been their companions was unbearable. Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandavas and the rightful king of Hastinapura, stood among the fallen soldiers, his face etched with sorrow. Despite their victory, there was no joy in his heart. The victory came at a staggering cost, and the thought of all the lives lost in the name of a kingdom left him with a deep sense of sorrow. It was not the kind of victory he had imagined when he first went into exile with his brothers. He looked at the battlefield where the bodies of the Kaurava warriors lay scattered alongside those of his own men. He thought of his dear brothers, each of whom had lost something precious in this war. Bhima, the mighty warrior, had fought for vengeance and justice, but even he could not escape the sorrow of knowing that the lives of their enemies, their family members, had been taken in the heat of battle. The Pandavas had won, but the war had taken away something that could never be replaced. The kingdom of Hastinapura, once a symbol of hope and prosperity, had been reduced to ruins. The land was soaked with the blood of warriors, and the cries of widows and orphans filled the air. The Pandavas had their kingdom back, but at what cost? The weight of the deaths of friends, family, and loved ones was something they would carry for the rest of their lives. In the aftermath of the battle, the Pandavas began to process the immense toll the war had taken on their souls. Their minds, once focused on regaining their rightful throne, were now consumed with grief. The once joyful days spent in the palace of Hastinapura with its lush gardens and vibrant celebrations now seemed like a distant memory. There were no more feasts, no more laughter. The laughter of children in the palace halls had been replaced with the mournful wails of those who had lost everything in the war. Yudhishthira, the king-to-be, found himself alone with his thoughts in the quiet of the evening. He walked the desolate battlefield, his heart heavy with the memories of those who had perished. He had never wanted this war. His desire was always to rule with justice, to bring peace and prosperity to the people of Hastinapura. But now, with the victory won, he realized that there was no true peace to be found on the battlefield. The victory, though necessary, was not the triumph he had hoped for. The souls of those who had died in battle would never rest in peace. In the midst of the carnage, Yudhishthira found himself questioning the very nature of his actions. Could there have been another way to resolve the conflict? Was there truly no other path to justice that did not involve such great loss? These questions haunted him as he walked through the battlefield, his mind filled with the images of his fallen brothers, his fallen comrades, and the countless men who had died for a cause that now seemed uncertain. Today's story I would like to end here. Please continue listening to the story in the next video. To not miss the next video, please subscribe to the channel and press the notification button to receive my next video.